Good evening, everyone. Call this meeting to order. County Pittsburgh Board of Commissioners regular meeting, Monday, June 26th, 2023. And if we could begin with a moment of silence, please. Let us go. Thank you. But Commissioner Farrell, you can do the pledge.
Would anyone rise to the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor Perry is now here, so we will exchange things.
Thank you so much, Pamela Baldwin.
Quite welcome.
And Pamela announced you're not with, she and I were doing the opening of Vacation Bible School here in the town. One of the many wonderful things that we get to do. There, you have your agenda before you. If I receive a motion either to approve the agenda as proposed or a motion to move it.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Farrell has made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried unanimously. Under citizens matters, the manager has an introduction to make, so we'll turn it over to Jonathan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Real quick, we're going to have a storm weather update from Paul Sawyer, and then we'll move into the introduction of our Public Works Director, James Snipes, by Jim Jackson.
Hey, just real quick. So we are under some pretty severe weather this evening. Upstream of 67 mile winds to the hail. A brief change with tornadoes. So if we do have a severe thunderstorm warning with a high wind or a tornado warning, we have a few safe locations to go to in here. We'll ask that we just pause the meeting and go into those safe locations. It'll be right out this door to the right. Chief Johnson is going to stand at the door, make sure everybody gets where they need to go. I'll be the last out of this room. But that goes for everybody here with us as well. If we do need to do that, I'll just stand up and let y'all know. And we'll go out here down the hallway to the right. And we'll be able to come back out with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Board. So my pleasure this evening to introduce Mr. Daniel Snipes. Daniel began work with us on June 12th as our Public Works Director. So we're extremely happy to have Daniel. So Daniel is a native of North Carolina. He resides in Orange County currently. He has a Bachelor of Business Administration degree from Campbell University. He has an extensive background in public works. For the past 8+ years, he has served in capacities of Assistant Director of Public Works and Director of Public Works. Most recently, that service being with our neighbor town of Harbor. So Daniel certainly comes highly recommended with a great reputation in the industry. He is a member of APWA. Also, he volunteers with the Orange Grove Volunteer Fire Department, where he is a captain and also board president of the Orange Grove Fire Association. So very pleased to have Daniel on board. Look forward to everything he's going to bring to Pittsburgh in the coming years. So Daniel, welcome. Also very pleased to have several members of his family here in the audience this evening. So Daniel, welcome to the team. Please.
Yes, I just would like to thank, thank my family for coming today, and thank the board and the town manager and the staff for the opportunity, and enjoy the time we're gonna be able to share here. Look forward to all the work that we got here.
Daniel Snipes, we welcome you, and if you'll make your rounds to shake the hands of the board. Some of us met you during the employee appreciation lunch a week or so ago, and I was delighted to hear that you have very firm Chatham County roots too, with banjo playing in Snipes. So how'd you come around? We'll read.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Snipes.
Thanks for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there further manager update? Jonathan Franklin?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then the rest to the commissioner and mayor updates, and I've been running around so much that I'm not going to have an update myself. We continue to cut ribbons and attend events, and it's been a wonderful, hectic 2 weeks that we've had lately. So, Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin.
I do have a few, not many. Basically, I thank you all who attended the unveiling of the mural. And it was wonderful at Horton. And again, I do thank you. And when you all get a chance, please drive around behind Horton and look at it, because you will be really, really pleased with it. It is absolutely beautiful. And the next thing, the only other thing I have is that I will be attending the Triangle J Council of Governments meeting on Wednesday. So that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bonitz,
I have no updates. Thank you.
Commissioner Farrell, seems like you're wearing an update there on the record.
Yeah, more pitching on from younger days, but I don't have anything right now. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Shipp.
Sure. I was able to attend and participate in the Triangle Business Journal Corridors of Opportunity in Chatham event here on Thursday. So that was a really good event, well attended, full room, and appreciated the invite to the employee appreciation lunch and doing that for our employees. And then I had the honor of giving the key away on Saturday to the Leonzo family to a Habitat for Humanity home. So that's right downtown Pittsburgh. First one in a long time in Pittsburgh. And so we're able to do that and welcome the community. So very glad to do that. And then we had an EDC meeting on the 21st. You know, lots of interest still that they don't tell us about. So that will continue to be the same. And then, but good news on funding for Wolf Speed. And we also have 4 board positions up on that board. So if you're interested in serving on the EDC board, let me know. Thank you.
And Commissioner Vose.
I have no updates this evening.
Thank you, Commissioner Watson. Before you is the consent agenda, which consists of 10 items, edits, minor corrections, and annexation for the petition, budget amendments, and calendar modifications. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Shipp,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carried unanimously. There was no one signed up for public comment tonight on the general citizen matter. But we're now entering into the public hearings for this evening. Is there a motion to open a public hearing regarding the regional utility merger between the town of Sanford and the city of Sanford?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Shipp, seconded by Commissioner Bonitz. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries unanimously. Kent Jackson, if you would give us opening statement regarding this public hearing for merger.
Yes, thank you again, Mayor. So, of course, you know, the most important business this evening is to hear from the public. However, we did want to give, you know, some opening comments and report related to customer service, customer implications for the potential merger. As you heard at the June 12th meeting, we had a somewhat extended discussion that was more technical in nature, kind of walking through the proposed merger agreements. And so this evening we wanted to talk again about you know, more of the kind of customer focused consideration for, you know, for the merger. So kind of a little bit in review, but talk about why merger. So of course, you know, there's a long history that we kind of stepped through at the last meeting. But I wanted to talk tonight about some of the benefits of the merger and talk about, you know, of course, any significant decisions such as this, a merger of significant assets and operations. There are certain vulnerabilities or risks. So I wanted to start out talking about what some of the benefits are and how we are trying to mitigate some of the risks through the merger agreement and the ongoing discussion with Sanford. So on the benefits side, and of course, you know, one of the starting points of this is to create more sewer capacity, and especially for what I'll call for the presentation is the core of Pittsburgh. When we've had this condition for a while, where even relatively small projects that may involve the expansion of a business or the construction on an infill lot cannot be supported because of very limited wastewater capacity. And so the benefit of this arrangement with Sanford is to enable us to achieve that sewer capacity, you know, initially via the fourth main, later through other upgrades that has kind of eluded us on our own in recent years. You know, I'll talk later about water quality considerations. Certainly this will add an additional water source to the town of Pittsburgh via some of the major capital projects and a transmission system from the Sanford water treatment plants. Rate stabilization. So we saw in December the first phase study from Friesen Nichols that demonstrated how rates could potentially increase in order to support the major capital projects. So rate stabilization is something that is demonstrated through this proposed merger with Sanford. And then another benefit is a strong partnership. I think staff has felt that Sanford has been a steadfast partner in these negotiations. I think they have remained flexible as the town has remained flexible. And I think, you know, a benefit of that, I think a short-term benefit is certainly the opportunities for the utility system. I think beyond that, a partnership with Sanford, you know, may translate to partnership in other areas, things we don't even conceive of today. Next, talking about some of the vulnerabilities or risks that we are working to mitigate through the merger agreements. We've talked, something that's been on the front end of all of this is how it's going to impact our staff and how we're going to guarantee that our staff are taken care of to the greatest extent possible. Those requirements and needs are being secured in the merger agreement. Funding for those major capital projects, 5 of which make up the core of the capital for the merger. There's a process for resolving disputes that may arise in the merger. It does not include some of the traditional legal remedies per se, but it does provide a sound process for resolving disputes that might arise. And then water quality is another item that's on the forefront of these considerations and discussions. We have had great cooperation with Sanford in sharing their water quality test data and results. So we'll talk about that a little bit later in these slides. Another important part of this is Chatham Park. As you know, we have had very difficulty with Chatham Park, particularly over the past 6 or 7 months, primarily regarding the completion of the fourth link project, but also regarding the importance of their planned growth to support a plan for the force main, either with Pittsburgh or through the merger. And so, that continues to be an important part of the merger discussion is plan development that supports, the capital projects that are required. Chatham Park has agreed to support the 3M commitment that the town has, and that will still occur, whether that is with Chatham Park or with Sanford via Chatham Park's Water Recovery Center. And then another key point that has been discussed is how to create, more capacity for Pittsburgh. Chatham Park has been very flexible, has listened to the town's needs and concerns as that has progressed. So that's kind of how Chatham Park is integrating into these merger discussions and consideration. So talking about the employees, this was a thing at the June 12th meeting that a number of you called out that we wanted to have kind of greater detail, more robust description of the employee treatment within the merger agreements. Significant progress has been made on that as far as the agreement is concerned. We have also had a meeting with Sanford's HR staff to talk through some very specific things related to benefits, service credits, pay, those type of onboarding kind of processes. So all these about 10 or a dozen things we have discussed with Sanford's HR departments have had very positive response from them. Honestly, they could not have been more flexible and receptive to talking about these things. I think staff has had a feeling that Sanford shared our concern for our employees. So that's a very good thing to feel from a partner that you're considering a significant business transaction like this with. And so we continue to fine tune that portion of the merger agreements, but a number of these have already been working to see the language of the merger agreement. Next, last time we didn't get into customer service, and then as much related to the agreement, but we wanted to assure you that, customer service has been, in the forefront of these conversations with Sandra. We do anticipate, expect, and plan for a continued high level of customer service. Related certainly to billing and collection, related to further requests. The progress we've made so far with the merger agreements will continue to have a place in Pittsburgh that currently at the town hall, and in the future, if it becomes a different location, but a location within the town of Pittsburgh for customers to continue to come and pay their bills in person at the drive-up window, continue to come and make service requests in person if that's their choosing. Certainly retain all of the kind of avenues for making requests, paying bills that they currently enjoy with the town of Pittsburgh. Whether that is by mail, whether that is at the drop-off location, at town hall, paying online, or through automatic draft. So we made a concerted effort to express this to Sanford, and they have been extremely cooperative in assuring us that this would be the case. I think we may also find with Sanford, they may have some additional customer service features that are attractive for our customer base, particularly through some of their own features, some of their pay by home features that may be a enhancement, or at least a different component of what we currently have. So we feel very good about how discussions are progressing on customer service. Of course, one of the questions that's going to be on the front of our customer's mind is, will my bill be going? So what we anticipate or expect is going to happen, what is stated in the merger agreement, initially rates will remain steady, and there is a possibility that within the first 5 years that Pittsburgh customers will see a decrease in their water and sewer rates. System development fees is a slightly different picture because of those capital improvement projects that we have talked about that total in the range of $230 million. The system development fees are needed to pay the freight on those capital projects. So, as you know, this board approved an increase to $11,000 combined water and sewer effective July 1st. The merger agreement currently contemplates a increase of that rate to $15,500 to be timed with the approval of the merger agreement. So that would be a near-term fee consideration. The other important thing that Sanford has agreed with us on is to use the same formulary for computing rates in Sanford as they use in computing rates in Pittsburgh. That will also ensure equitable and consistent treatment of the customer bills. So one of the last things that is extremely important, water quality. So we have talked about water quality in the city of Sanford, kind of throughout this. One of the initial, priority lists that we sent them had to do with water quality, back in the end of 2022. So we have had a coordinated effort with the city of Sanford, related to that. We have, assured and verified that their advanced treatment approach is consistent with the advanced treatment that we have installed at our town of Pittsburgh water treatment plants. So the granular activated carbon for Sanford's water plant expansion will treat their expanded capacity and will also be, their existing plant will be retrofitted so that their GAC will treat both the expansion and the existing plant, the full 30 HB. We've also confirmed that their design includes a space and pre-construction for a UV-AOP treatment train to be added at a timeline to be determined by City of Sanford. So we have determined, verified with them that that is part of their design for their water plant expansion. Western Intake, and certainly Pittsburgh is a long time member of the Western Intake Partnership. The Western Intake Partnership is has been kept informed. They're very much aware of these discussions, the status of the discussions. In fact, we just last Thursday were kind of talking through, some timing for when and how to involve the city of Sanford in those discussions. So that is very much intact at this point. And then with our Fall River, our Pittsburgh water treatment plants, as you know, earlier this year we received significant SRF loans for expanding our GAC to do two things: expand to be able to treat the full 2 MGD capacity of the plants, and to be able to add the ion exchange to treat the short chain PFAS contaminants. That was one grant we received. The other 12+ million was to add the UV-AOP treatment. And so we received those. They are 100% principal for given SRF loans. And so obviously that's very significant. We have negotiated carefully in the merger agreement to make sure that Pittsburgh receives full credit and use from those funds. One last thing as far as test results. There is it's kind of, there's some variables in comparing test reports from water quality sampling, trying to make sure that you have completely comparable values in the contaminants that are being tested for, the baseline against which the tests are being conducted to, a frequency, any number of variables. So we have received numerous test results from Sanford. Staff are still analyzing, reviewing those, comparing them to our test results. However, one thing that we can make a kind of snapshot comparison, something called a source water assessment score. There's a source water assessment program that is ran by the Division of Water Resources and DWQ. So staff has researched the recent reports for both Pittsburgh and Sanford. And we have found that the scores for Sanford assessment and for Pittsburgh's assessment have identical scores at, I think it's 28.9. Now, that does not in and of itself mean that we have completely comparable water, but it is a qualitative assessment. And it does give a fair representation of the vulnerabilities of both utilities, water storage, as far as contaminants are concerned. So that has been reassuring to this point. And like I said, we're near to the end of reviewing water quality, compared water quality test results. However, that was something that gave us some degree of assurance. I think lastly, just talking about some of the merger costs, that is another thing that is probably on people's minds. So there are three primary cost components. The capital costs we have talked about a number of times. That's all the projects we have to do to physically connect the systems and provide the capacity. The funding plan, the rate parity plan, is described in detail in the merger agreement. Legal costs, you're paying our outside legal costs, Sanford paying their outside legal costs, and then what I'm calling administrative costs, the costs associated with completing the transfer will be paid by City of Sanford. So, and so those were just some highlights we wanted to cover as we start the public hearing, and look forward to hearing the comments from the public.
Thank you very much, Kent Jackson. With communications, it would be my pleasure to look at this point. If the board has specific questions or comments with respect to Kent Jackson or the project in general, that those could be addressed now. So let's go around the table and see. Commissioner Bonitz, do you have questions that would be, shall we say, able to help the public also understand your concerns or your thoughts about it?
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Okay. The concerns about water quality are shared, and I'm glad to hear, Kent, I'm glad to hear you speak a little bit more detail about that. I am hearing constituents ask specifically for the pollutant goals or limits for Sanford's GAC plant. They've shared with us abundantly their plans for the GAC, and I'm pleased that they are going to install that level of advanced filtration, that they have plans for even more. But we do need to know at what level the GAC will be operated and managed, or what result. And we've spoken offline, I think, or maybe it was Jonathan Franklin, where I shared the concern about the way that we have adapted management of our drinking water production to address slugs of intermittent pollutants as they come down the river. And it would be nice if we could share that learning with Sanford and assurance that they have procedures to do similar. Of course, that doesn't do anybody any good unless we know the slugs are coming down the river, right? So that's maybe a tall ask, but because it's certainly been a tall ask for the local governments upstream of us to have them notify us when they're aware of 1,4-dioxane in particular. Also concerned that this is irrevocable, and so just really want to make absolutely certain that we're not missing anything, that we've comprehended everything that we possibly can. None of us have a crystal ball, but we've got significant engineering studies that have been done on what we still need to do for capital improvements. Want to make sure that everything conceivable is in those, and that we're anticipating what we'll need to buy when, and how those work into the agreements. And the rates, I'm very appreciative of Kent's, or excuse me, your staff's sensitivity to the rate considerations, and you have explained that very, very plainly and clearly. That it's nice to hear that the rates will initially be steady. That we may even see declines in the rates in the early years. But stepping back from those particular concerns, I think what I've heard the most of in the past week is that in preparation for this public hearing, folks who've reached out to me are hungry for more information, and they've not been able to find it, or they've not been able to find it very easily. And it occurs to me that we've really been kind of sprinting to catch up with this very ambitious set of timelines. No fault to any of us, but it occurs to me that we have on our website some really good examples, like the Chatham Park Master Plan and the associated pages for the additional elements are also all laid out right there. And so for the public to be curious about that subject, they go to that one spot and drill down to the pages beneath. I don't think we have that yet. I know that Colby has presented an information page. I'm embarrassed that I haven't had a chance to look at it, but what I'm hearing, I sense that it doesn't have that drill down to the capital improvement plan document, all of the relevant legal documents associated with this very complex set of moving parts, and so on and so forth. So that would be really good. It doesn't directly address your prompting questions, Mayor Perry, but I appreciate the opportunity to share some high-level thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comments, questions. So we do plan for anticipate significant public engagement. Now and going forward, we have put, I would say, considerable effort into a merger page. Certainly there is additional information that can be added, and we'll review that in the context of your comments, questions that you have made. Additionally, we have discussed a direct mail piece to every utility customer to give some additional information, and the possibility of offering one or more forums to discuss, one-on-one with interested customers. So
That sounds great.
All right, great. Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin, you have any questions or comments as we go around?
Well, I don't have those many at this point. However, I do echo what Commissioner Bonitz had indicated about the water quality. And basically, more information on that hopefully will be forthcoming. And I do appreciate what you did present to us concerning that. But that is definitely of concern to me. And how long, since you indicated that they are proposing to place a GAC system, to put that in place, how long or what type of time frame that would be in terms of them putting that in place? That's sort of things what I'm more so interested in. And what you indicated, the merger page, I would certainly want to see that. That would be very helpful for the public.
Yeah.
But those are some of the things which I'm concerned about, as well as the employees. You certainly did indicate that, and you've all have looked at what you can do to make sure that they are places for them, which I was very, very concerned about that, because I certainly don't want anyone to lose their position or their job or employment. So those are some of my concerns. And then I look forward to hearing what the public has to say also.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bose?
Other than just to echo the request for some sort of technical submittals on what the actual water quality that we're going to have is going to be, it's going to land here. I've yet to see that.
Commissioner Shipp?
Sure. I mean, appreciate all the work the staff has done on this. I know it's been a significant effort to get this into form. I think this is critical, you know, for really the points that you made for sewer capacity that, you know, we've been working to achieve over the last 20 years. And really resilience too. So Commissioner Bonitz, you talked about the sporadic unregulated contaminants. And so I think this, you know, another water interconnection, or really a water interconnection, you know, be critical for times like that before things like Western Intake Partnership come online. You know, I think probably the biggest, it may be a toss up between the biggest complaints on water quality and water rates. And so this is our way to rate stabilization and eventually parity with Sanford. And I think that is a critical piece of this. And then the regional partnerships, as we see more with these mega sites and regional partnerships with community colleges and all those things, we all need to work together better and just more going forward. And so, and really to me, that's and some of the language in the agreement too is the partial answer anyway to some of the things that aren't going to be defined fully in this agreement. And that, you know, it's 13 pages right now, I believe, version 8 anyway, so somewhere around there of content. And so part of that is being flexible over time. Like an example to me is that we spent I don't know, for 5 years on the UDO and then put it in, we've made multiple changes to it since. And so this contemplates a process for those changes. And I think that's going to be critical, just like anything that we get in it, use it. And we have a partner in Sanford that's willing to work with us over time and update it as we see what needs to be changed as we go through. The website is excellent. There's a lot of information out there. It's pittsburghnc.gov/merger. So, you know, certainly we can put more over time, but I encourage everyone to look at that. And then I think appreciate, you know, some more smaller comments that Mr. Messick and Candy worked through with me. So appreciate that time too. But I think it's I'm glad to see where we are today with this merger. It seems quick, but it's really a culmination of probably a 20-year process in achieving this for Pittsburgh. So,
Commissioner Farrell?
Just a few little issues, nothing major. Thank you, board members, for all your comments. The benefit package, I do appreciate that update on that. And also the rate parity, I understand that that's going to possibly can moved up to like possible 5-year parity. Is that correct?
I don't think we've seen anything that ambitious, but we have had the encouraging news that there may be some slight rate decreases in that first 5 years.
Okay. The annual meeting, I want to just concerned if that needs to be semi-annual. just to making sure that we're keeping in close connections and communications with Sanford. That's just my idea. And the hydrant testing for, did we speak any more with Sanford on the hydrant testing with the fire department?
We did,
Okay.
and the agreement there is that, and I've also discussed it with Chief Griffin. The agreement there is that City of Sanford Utility Department will perform those, required tests, monitoring.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Ken. I may overlook that. I don't have my regular notes.
No problem.
I would just like to add, before we go to the comment, that, this is new to us. In truth, I had not heard of utility mergers before. We started talking about this. But it is by far and away not an uncommon process. And I know that several small towns in Wake County have done mergers with the larger city of Raleigh, or the county facilities. And I think that we're not, it may seem that we're plowing new ground, but I would like to say that we do have some good examples to follow. And so we're not reinventing the wheel, we have the benefit actually of seeing what other jurisdictions have done and choosing to replicate those that have worked well.
Yeah, it's a good point, Mayor, and we also have the benefit that members of the legal team have had direct experience with some of those other transactions. So we benefited from that as well.
Thank you. All right, now we have several members of the public signed up to speak during this public hearing. We have 6 people who have signed up to speak. I would like to remind you that there is a 3-minute limit. Please come to the podium and state your name and address. We would be working to time those. And if you wish to have additional comments, written submittal has been put forward by 5 different people, some of whom are speaking tonight in addition to their written submittal. The board has those written comments on our desks, and they will be entered into the minutes to reflect the public comment. So the first person signed up is Greg Stafford. Greg, would you come forward?
I'm here to speak in favor of the merger on the downtown advisory committee. I'm also on the vision committee for the next 10 years. And I was shocked when I joined those committees to find out this is a 20-year, 10-year ago and 20-year ago vision plan said we need more sewer badly. Well, now we really need more sewer badly. And as I sit around with other business leaders downtown Pittsburgh, trying to find a way, what are we going to do next? What can we do downtown? Everyone looks at each other going, well, we can't because we don't have any sewer. And we have this offer on the table, and I don't know the minutia. I am not in on the details. I'm not the attorney looking at it. But what I do know is if we say no to this one, we're punting like the last several group of people funded, and we'll still have no sewer in 5 years. You know, I'm 60 years old. I want to do one more cool thing before, we get to the end of this. And unless we get sewer now, nothing new cool is going to happen. It'll happen all day long in Chatham Park. And they're doing great stuff. But if we want to do it downtown Pittsburgh, and we want to make it cool and place people want to go, they have to have a place to drink and use the bathroom and everything else. And if we don't get sewer, we're not going to infill, we're not going to have food restaurants and everything else. So I'm for it and desperate. I think that this, I would take any deal coming down the pipe. I don't want to be too exaggerated in that team. But I don't think we got a choice. Because if we don't, and Chatham Park is too far ahead of us, and the other developments with their own little business centers get too far ahead of us, Who's going to this? Nobody. So anyway, that's kind of the summation. I would put in 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for the record, that was Greg Stafford visit 901 Jordan Hill Loop in Pittsburgh. All right. Becky Smith is our next speaker.
Ms. Smith is canceled, she has work late.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Elaine Piazza. And Elaine, while she's coming up to the podium, has also submitted remarks. She is the executive director of the Fall River Assembly. And you have those remarks.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Board of Commission. As you know, you talk about the efficiency and the economics of this and the time factor. There's just nothing more important than water quality. And in my mind, you're looking at, showing the devil, and what you don't know. The Cape Fear is is a receiving river of the deep and the Haw River, all of that pollution. We know it's in the Haw River, it's been studied since. The Deep River also has problems. Ashboro and High Point are also contributing industrial contaminants in the Deep River. Ashboro particularly has a problem with dioxin. And even though Sanford says that it's in their 2022 report, based on monthly sampling that is non-detect, there have been many instances. Same kind of problem really with sludge and dioxin going through that plant. And Pittsburgh well aware of what that means. I have not heard an answer to when GAC would be installed. In Sanford, I assume, you would be pressing that would happen before you ever took the water, but not have a plan for gas with the UV treatment. I just think that's unacceptable. And what other chemicals are there in the Cape Fear River where the water intake is? For one thing, that Sanford's wastewater treatment plant is 15 miles above the drinking water intake. That's pretty crazy. So that's a pretty short distance. And Sanford, like most municipalities, it's not just their residential and industrial wastewater that's going into that wastewater plant, but also leachate from landfills, and particularly from the Brookhaven coal ash landfill, which is a whole stew of bad stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely kind of alarmist, but this was not what I had hoped for with Pittsburgh. Getting the federal state money to be able to finally get 1,4-dioxane out of the water, having a GAC system that you can even expand. Using that system until the Western, intake partnership finally has results. Maybe it'll be 10 years, but I think relying on Sanford, which I'm not at all impressed with their concern for their own residents in terms of environmental issues and water. So kind of here to ring that bell. You ask really tough questions before you think about signing anything with Sanford, because as several of you have already talked about, this is a very long-term commitment, and you're giving up control. And I would even say, gas filters are great, but you have to maintain them. So you're trusting Sanford.
Thank you, Elaine. Whose address is 1076 Rock Crest Road in Pittsburgh. The next speaker is Jessica Merrick's. And Jessica's address, I'm going to go ahead, is 126 Evergreen Drive in Pittsburgh. Thank you.
How do I even speaker?
I think we all admire greatly.
Not his birthday, that evening. Hi, everybody, I'm Dr. Jessica Merrick. I live at Evergreen Drive here in Pittsburgh. I'm a student of biology at UW University and co-founder of the Haw River advocacy group fighting against contaminated water. We're here today to go on the discouraged utility winter. Residents of Borough are already experiencing extremely high levels of feedback and one for adapting from polluters in Burlington, Greensboro, and Greenville. If we follow this plan, add more cities to our list of polluters. We can add Randleman, Ashboro, and High. As you're all aware, there is a growing list of health issues associated with exposure to these chemicals. The EPA has considered these chemicals to be at such great that last year they reduced their health advisory limits from 70 parts per trillion down to 0.004 parts per trillion per vehicle away, which is only 1 in 9,016 compounds. The research is clear that none of these chemicals should be in our bodies at all. The National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine has issued clear guidance that any person with blood levels above 2 parts per trillion for combined PFAS should be prioritized in screening for lipidemia, hypertensive disorder, pregnancy, and breast cancers. For the unfortunate group with blood levels above 20 parts per trillion, which we have residents here in Pittsburgh with levels that high, additional screening for thyroid function, kidney cancer, testicular cancer, and ulcerative colitis. Of course, it's not your responsibility to protect us from all exposure to PFAS. We do expect at the very least that the water we drink are not protected from the problem. We are very concerned about the situation down in Sanford. The Big Buffalo wastewater facility sends millions of gallons of wastewater into the Deep River, depositing unknown levels of PFAS and upstream of its drinking water intake. What will happen when the flood of 1,4-dioxane makes its way downriver? Will there be enough time to shut down the intake before the carcinogen makes its way into our drinking water facility? Until polluters have robust pre-treatment programs in place to prevent these dangerous chemicals from making their way into our wastewater, leachate, and drinking water, no one should be drinking water from the Hobb, the Deep, or the Cape Fear River. We urge you to reconsider this plan. While I understand the West Tennessee Partnership is years away, I would prefer Jordan Lake over this alternative. Pittsburgh has made great strides. We are thankful for the gas filter. We're grateful for the good partnership that Pittsburgh has been building with Greensboro and who are finally now responding to our calls. I really don't want to have to start with this partnership. We just do not. It's a great idea. We urge you to reconsider things really carefully before you make a final decision. You'll be rest of my time.
Thank you, Dr. Nurse. Our next speaker is Betty Baldwin. Red Dog Court, right?
That is correct. I love the fact that it was mentioned it's been 20 years or maybe 30 years we've been working on the wastewater issue. And I was just up in Chapel Hill on Sunday at a fundraiser, ran into Kevin Boyd, the former mayor of Chapel Hill, if you all remember. He and a few others actually met at my house at Randolph Court in 2006. Georgia Sear was there, by the way, Barry Jacobs, Mark Chilton, when we actually started the idea for the Adjournment partnership. So those been with Matt, that was 17 years ago. It takes a long time to get these things done. I'm here in 3 capacities to speak affirmatively in support of the proposed merger of the town of Pittsburgh and the city of Sanford utility systems. First, as a board member of the Orange Chatham Realtors and liaison of the Governing Affairs Committee, I have a letter of support for the merger executed by our current president, Rachel Elliott. A copy is with you, and that will be sent to your clerk for the record. I distributed copies to the board and the clerk of another letter, which is from the Labor Caucus of the NCP, executed by its current president, Drew Edwards of the Communication Workers of America. Our organization held its convention in Pittsburgh, this exact venue, on June 17th, and we were so fortunate that Mayor Perry and County Commissioners Henlin and Flores Gomez welcomed the attendees and legislators to Pittsburgh. Of note, that letter from the Labor Caucus actually delineates the parts of the platform going back to our President Joe Biden, where it says that we support regional cooperation between counties and municipalities to address important and critical needs for stormwater management, reuse water, potable water, and sanitary sewer. It also mentions economic development, workforce housing, living wages, job safety, and unions if we're going to do projects like this and what this means for labor. Finally, as a former member of your board and four-term mayor, I'm very proud to see you moving forward on the support policy. This really is probably 20 years in the making. So gavels get handed off to other mayors and we keep going, and I'm proud to see you're dealing with this issue. It's vexed us in the 1990s, and we've been working on some version of this path and our idea for many years. And other former public servants of the town join me in applauding you on the real progress you have made in these last few years on this issue. We want to thank you for your leadership on this issue, because this is very difficult work and very important, and your commitment to that, I think, is going to pay dividends now and in the future. As a side note, I'm pleased to see that you will keep the 300 commitment through Chatham Park. When we first did that many years ago, this board was given an award by DEQ because the town of Pittsburgh was the first municipality to ever do such a project. So thank you for keeping that up.
Thank you, Rainbow. Our next speaker is John Foley.
Six four four Millbrook Drive.
John.
Thank you for listening. I'm in support of this merger from a very narrow perspective, and that is affordable housing. I know we have 2/5 of the board that attend every single meeting, and I honor your commitment to affordable housing. That was fast. I honor your commitment to affordable housing. One note, looking at the statistics in May, I'm a realtor, and I'm a member of the board of OCHAR as well. There were 7% listing and 7% sales in Chatham County for the month of May. That were homes valued at $249,000 and less. So that is a meager number, and I know that some of the delay in affordable housing is because of the sewer that we'll be looking forward to getting. So thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your concerns about this.
And thank you, John. So we have at our desk, as was referenced by Randy Bowler, the Drew Edwards letter from the Labor Caucus and the Rachel Elliott letter from the Orange Chatham Association of Realtors. Elaine Piosa, you have given us a complete copy of your remarks, and Arthur Mason and Henry Edwin, residents of Chapel Ridge, submitted written comment. If you are interested in speaking during this public hearing, please use the raise hand feature in the Zoom platform. You will receive a prompt telling you that the host is asking you to speak. Accept the prompt, and you will be able to be heard in the meeting room and on live stream. So are there additional people? Thank you, Madam President. Are there additional people who did not sign up who would like to speak? Yes, sir. Please come forward and state your name and address, and hopefully are there people raising their hands online? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, and my name is Jack McGrath. I work for the Economic Development Corporation, and I'm here to express our support for the merger between Pittsburgh, and City of Sanford. Water and sewer capacity is consistently a top priority for both new and existing industries looking to grow and locate here in Chatham County. If town capacity remains unchanged, Pittsburgh may be preemptively crossed off the list for prospective businesses, both looking to relocate and expand here, resulting in lost revenue and further economic strain for needed improvements to existing infrastructure. Conversely, if the town enters into the agreement with the City of Sanford, we at the EDC have the greater ability to return to businesses and expand on our current commercial and residential base. Further contributing to public revenues and helping ease burden on current town residents. We also see the merger as a necessity to address the workforce housing needs in Pittsburgh. With expanding capacity for development, more inventory can be created for those who will work at one of the many companies growing here in Chatham County. So we encourage and support this merger and stand ready to assist in any way possible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jack. Vandergraaf, could you give the town clerk your address, please? On that. Back. Is there someone else? Yes, sir. Would you come forward, please, and state your name and address?
Hello, my name is John Wagner and resident of 210 Justin Lane, Pittsburgh. And I'm here to add to the comments about water quality. I think that's a tremendous issue which isn't being addressed enough in this proposal. And there are three things that I'll just cover briefly. One, I think we really need to have specific water quality standards, goals, and timelines for the entire water quality aspect of this merging. And you need to make that available to the public, so the public has a chance to make comments and suggestions about that. The second thing is the whole issue of PFAS in the Haw River and the Cape Fear is an evolving issue. The health standards are changing. Our information about the detrimental effects are serious and they're growing as we learn more about it. And we have new industries moving in that are going to be putting additional new components into the river that we don't know the details of. It's not been made available to the public. And so you have responded faster than Sanford in dealing with the PFAS issue. If you give up control, then you give up the ability to respond to the future threats and the existing ones as things evolve. And I think it's really dangerous to pass that control to an entity that has been slower and will be slower in the future. So I commend for what you've done with the filtration system and the new UV system, but you are going to lose control of what happens in the future from here on. And I think that's really dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you, John Wagner. Was there anyone else who wished to speak? No? Okay. Very good then. That completes our public hearing for the regional utility merger. Is there a motion to go out of public hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Farrell,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is a public hearing regarding conditional use zoning request PB 23-178. Is there a motion to open that public hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Baldwin,
Second.
second by Commissioner Rhodes. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. And Planning Director Randy Tingle will be leading us in this discussion.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, in your packet, there was a series of pages, some of which have been replaced by what was passed out this evening. And just going to apologize for the fact there are a couple of errors which showed up in the report that was sent out to you all, and a corrected one is in front of you. This particular rezoning request involved a very thin piece of land that is 2.19 acres, and it's located along US 64 Business East. There's an image on the screen in front of you, I do believe. The applicant is Chatham Park Investors. And they, along with Bradshaw Robinson Slaughter, held a community meeting on March 29th, 2023, with 2 citizens in attendance. The information about that is in the background report. Biggest conclusion that was drawn was citizens were in support of the affordable housing component. There is a staff analysis in the packet. I want to draw your attention to a couple of the pertinent points. Currently, this particular sliver, which was not included in PDD, is zoned residential agriculture, and the properties to the west, north, and east are included in the Chatham Park Plan Development District. The property adjacent to the property on the south is zoned RA, as well as this particular sliver. The planning board did review 10 standards that required for zoning map amendment, and found that most or all of them were consistent. What was presented was consistent with those standards. I did want to point out in particular that the applicant states that this particular piece of land, and I do want to tell you a little something about it in a second, but they were pointing out that it was anticipated that this would be part of the project that's dedicated to development of a multi-family group of units for affordable housing that will satisfy a portion of the Chatham Park affordable housing plan additional element, specifically noted in Article 2, Section 7, for affordable housing located on land that's within 1/2 mile of any boundary of the PDD. I did want to make very clear that what makes this particular rezoning request a little bit unusual is that the primary request on the part of the petitioners, which you will certainly see in the conditions that are listed in the packet, that in particular is in front of you all. Exhibit C is what I want to draw your attention to. This particular piece is a little bit unique in the sense that because the developer would like to sort of drop it in as the missing piece up here, they would like permission to remove the side and rear setback areas that are ordinarily part of an individual piece to make it sort of just blend very seamlessly in. And I believe in a moment when you see an aerial of the proposed site plan layout, you'll see why that makes sense. What is going to stay in place is the 30-foot setback that is described in in waivers C and D and their conditions. There's no perimeter buffers that would be required on the subject property along common boundaries with the Chatham Park PDD. And are no building setbacks required except for the 30-foot setback in the street, which is pretty consistent. I did want to point out to you all that the conditions themselves are contained in Exhibit C, pretty standard stuff. There are a variety of housing possibilities over here, but they're zeroing in on multi-family and affordable. And staff does support the rezoning of this particular property. As it is currently zoned RA, it would not be useful within the broader scope of the larger project. And I would like to include my remarks to that, and if you all have any questions.
Are there people signed up to speak for this proposal? No, ma'am.
Before you yield the podium, Randy,
Yes, sir.
I have a question that it's just a curiosity, honestly, but I've long wondered about properties that have been subdivided, such as this one historically must have been, and whether or not there's any legal pathway for reunification or removal of those boundary lines, for example, in cases like this.
Quite a few attorneys present, but I'm going to chip in and give my best approximation of the answer, which is that recombination, which is an exempt action, would actually remove all property lines around it.
So recombination might be a pathway to addressing this, but we've also addressed it with this language.
That recombination in and of itself, and certainly I'm encouraged my new best friend to come on up and join me in this conversation. But I'm just gonna say that for some new to hear all together, so I guess everybody's my new best friend. But I was just going to say that the issue that would remain is that, you know, it doesn't clarify how you make all the zoning pretty similar. So this gives you the similarity and certainly points them in a direction toward recombination. When you see the arrow, that you should free to put up on the screen. I'm going to say that you can start to understand the law.
This is Nick Robbins, who's representing Chatham Park of the firm Bradshaw Robinson and others. Slaughter and
Rayner. Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, Mr. Planning Director. Appreciate the introduction. In summary, yes, I'm Nick Robinson, Bradshaw, Robinson, Slaughter, and Rayner LLP here in Pittsburgh, 128 Hillsborough Street, 27312. And as mentioned, delighted to be here tonight representing Chatham Park Investors LLC in this conditional zoning request. As Mr. Cahoon mentioned, it's 2.2 acre strip, and he mentioned that it's surrounded on 3 sides by Chatham Park and on the 4th side by Highway 64. And the reason that we are seeking to effectuate this rezoning is really because this site will allow an anticipated 300 to 338 affordable housing multifamily units in Pittsburgh, which will be developed in part on this parcel and in part on the adjoining Chatham Park parcels. So, and I don't think I need to belabor any of the further points. We had an excellent, productive exchange with the planning staff about the conditions. And we also had an excellent meeting with the planning board, at which they unanimously recommended approval of this zoning to you. And speaking of the conditions, we did work through with Mr. Cahoon Tingle and Jane with regard to the 10 conditions that are listed in Exhibit C to the proposed ordinance to approve the rezoning. And I want to make sure that we talked ahead of time, and the 5 revisions that I submitted to you have been incorporated into the version that they have. They are. Okay, good. And so we are in agreement with those conditions as revised. The applicant accepts them, and I think planning staff does as well. And so really, you know, we've been together multiple times, and oftentimes the conversation comes around to affordable housing. And I'm pleased that this particular rezoning is really going to unlock a great opportunity for affordable housing in Pittsburgh. So I'm hopeful that this will be one that you all can consider and approve. Now, Robbie Odom's here, you know, as he always is. But really, the summary that's been given so far is ample. If you have particular questions for me or for Robbie, we're more than happy to entertain them. Thank you.
and the planning director wants to speak again.
Well, really brief comment now that this is up on the screen. Did want to point out to you all that the particular piece we're talking about is the purple rectangle. So sort of crosses a couple of buildings. There's some pieces in the condition that actually are specific to that particular item. But basically, if you have any setback areas, it'd be quite impossible to lay it out in this particular. This is an illustration. This is not carved in stone. This is what they potentially intended.
And again, approximately how many units across the entire assembly?
Appreciate this response. Yes, 300 to 338. And I did want to get back to your other question about recombination and just also add to what Mr. Cahoon said, which is that it's really, in order to make that property line disappear and function for this kind of development, it's a 2-step process. We're in the first one now.
to rezone it to allow the use that can cross the boundary lines. And then the second step would be to combine the parcels so that those property lines disappear. And then the only other thing that we're building up is that there'll be a maximum of 40 entire affordable housing units within this purple rectangular parcel. Meaning that when they come in for a site plan, as long as there's not more than 40 entire apartment units on that parcel, it will be approved. Any other questions?
Questions by the board?
Don't have any questions, just a comment. It looks like a great idea. All for it.
Has there been a building chosen for this project? Yes. And start date is approximate. I think you're gonna get that tonight. Ross. All right. We need then to have a motion to close the public hearing, assuming that there's no one else who wishes to speak on the project tonight. Either Zoom, members of the audience, or
I just want to make one comment, is that I am certainly happy to see that someone is doing some affordable housing. Finally, thank you.
Amen.
Does that mean that you'd like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing. Yes.
Motion by Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Shipp. Okay. My brother, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion to close the public hearing passes unanimously. Is there a motion to approve the request?
So moved.
Moved by Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Wonderful. Under old business, nice to see you all. Under old business, we'll move then to the Downtown Advisory Board appointment. And Teresa Thompson, I bet you're on Zoom.
She is not available this evening. I'll be handling that.
Oh, okay, excellent. So Jonathan Franklin will handle it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. At the last meeting, you approved 3 of the 4 available spaces on the Downtown Advisory Board. And then that just left the one open space. That was narrowed down. I think there were 9 total applicants. That board narrowed those down to 3. And so you have those applications. So they're requesting that you all choose who investments needed the council to sign.
Is there a motion to put a name forward?
I'd very much like to move for
I'd like
Beth.
to make a motion for Shannon Plummer.
A second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Farrell, seconded by Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed,
Okay.
nay.
Nay.
Nay. Motion carries 3-2. I regret that we weren't able to get that motion in, but that was made first. Is that a proper parliamentary? Have we done properly parliamentary? Very good. All right.
Motion to second, and you voted on it. Could have asked for discussion, but
All right. There's no new business, and so we have information items which are on here regarding policies and leave. And I guess, Jonathan, are you leading that discussion?
yes, ma'am, I can. Really, what we had a miscellaneous section in the agenda that really wasn't being used, so we turned that into information only to provide items that we would hope that you would consider for action at future meetings. So these are a couple that we wanted to take a look at. More personnel policy changes take a look at those and then, in your spare time, just let me know what you think and we'll work from there.
Is there anything that jumps out here, by the board that is, that you'd like to clarify or question, and since we're here, able to take the questions?
I just have one comment for Jonathan is, are you, I guess, the word I'm looking for, the 6-month probationary period for department heads going to 12 months, are you, if you good with that?
Yeah, taking it down from 12 months to 6 months. It's typically public safety that has 12-month probationary periods, but for department heads, this offers a way to get an increase sooner than later. And after 6 months, we can have a pretty good handle on if they're able to do the job. So plus, even if that 6-month period, if we're not quite sure, we can always extend it.
For another 6 months, is
Yes,
that, okay?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it. That's been my practice.
Is that right?
Managed, yes.
And I already brought these up to staff, but the question about separation and reinstatement, it says within 2 weeks, sick time requires a doctor's note. I don't know if that was acceptable in context of the increase of a 30-day notice for department heads. So is that policy acceptable for department heads the last 2 weeks also, or should that be 30 days?
It's acceptable the way it is.
Okay.
You just never know.
Yep. And then just on the parental leave policy, first of all, I'm glad that we're talking about adding that. We'll add it soon. I think that's really critical to have. I was surprised that we didn't have it, but just the conditions at the top, the paragraph kind of describes some conditions, and then the bullet points of the conditions are a little bit different. So I think we can have one or the other and just clean it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Any additional questions? Well, in that case, then we'll have those to study. There's no closed session tonight, so are there closing remarks that the board would like to make as we seek towards adjournment?
Just one comment. I was looking for kind of the reference about the water treatment timeline in Sanford, but first of all, the merger website has a lot of information. I encourage everyone to read it. It does talk about, or just the concept of the water treatment essentially is that we will have water treatment. Our only source of water is the Pittsburgh water plant right now, water treatment plant. And we will have that until, after the water is here from Sanford. So we know that the water plant in Sanford is going to include the GAC treatment in it. And so we will have that concurrent with the Pittsburgh water plant, but we'll have the Pittsburgh water plant until that comes online at least. So that the timeline on the website is Q1 of 2027 for that. And the transmission line is expected in Q4 of 2026. So the transmission line will be ready, or projected to be ready a little bit before the plant that serves it. But either way, we will always have GAC treated water in Pittsburgh. And we're expected to have that from Sanford in Q1 of 2027. And then that timeline to discuss, the dates are not in the agreement, but that timeline or the sequence of events is in the agreement.
I appreciate you raising that, Commissioner Shipp, because it's one of my continued concerns is why would we be agreeing to sell off or dismantle our current drinking water plant at any time. I mean, I think that resiliency is a really crucial consideration in delivery of utility services, and multiple sources of water is what most municipalities I hear of are trying to get and paying extra to get. So why would we be decommissioning it or shutting it down? I could understand not increasing it, not expanding it. until that is needed. After the drinking water pipeline from Sanford comes up, we will have abundant supply for some time. But it seems like we would want to continue using that plant and continue its operation.
Mhm.
I just do not understand shutting it down.
I think the only language in the agreement about shutting it down is about what happens monetarily if they were to sell that. If they were that plant. So I mean, it contemplates the possibility of it, but I don't think it's, or I'll say it hasn't been talked about as a realistic option in the near term, like potentially after the Western Internet Partnership comes online or something. And there's some language too about Pittsburgh would be charged more than in the formula of charges to operate that plant if it costs more to operate than the plant in Sanford. So there might be a financial component to it as well, but I don't, as far as I've heard, they don't have plans to shut that down. It's just that potential is contemplated because it is a perpetual agreement.
Okay.
So it really defines if they were to sell it, that most of the proceeds from that sale go towards the citizens getting rate parity soon, the citizens of Pittsburgh getting rate parity soon.
Okay.
But there's no timeline for selling and shutting it down. Anything like that. It's needed for capacity.
Thank you.
Additional questions or comments from the board?
No, but I appreciate you bringing up that question, because I agree with you that that's very important after all that was done over there, for sure. Yes.
And for our staff that reports there each day.
Mhm.
All right. Oh, there's nothing further. Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Commissioner Shipp.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried unanimously. Thank you all so much.